What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode we are returning to the UC90s as we continue our coverage of the return of Johnny Ridden. Last time, Cristobal and Emma met with Scott, who turns out to be a former Chimera Corps associate. He decides to help the two get to Jaburo. Yazan attacks Jacobius, who wants to destroy the Sangre Azul, but Oxner won't allow him. This time, Jacobius faces off against Yazan. Led joins the battle in Johnny Ridden's Red Gelgoog, and Oxner plans to put an end to Universal Century. So let's get into this. Jacobius and the Gelgoog cannon begins taking out base jabbers from Yazan's aerial support unit. He knows the area better, and if he could get Yazan's team to the ground, then they will have the advantage. Yazan's wingman, Kawase, checks out a third location while he and another stay on the front lines. They already scouted out 2 areas for the Sangre Azul. Remia and Uma Lightning spot a combat unit with a utility vehicle that they seem to be transporting somewhere. They decide to follow them. Yazan spots Jacobius and his team. They scatter while Jacobius tries to draw out the gas plant. Jacobius shows Yazan how a sniper fights. Meanwhile, the Jukon crew and Uma's associates notice a mobile suit in scouting formation. The captain mentions this is standard movements of Zeon. We return to Oxner and Gop's conversation. Oxner wants to see an end to Universal Century. He is from Sydney. After the colony drop, he didn't feel sadness or hatred. He felt impatient. He believes humans will soon bring ruin to themselves. Gop wonders if this is why he acquitted the Chimera Corps. Uma Lightning and Ingred were old-school cyber new types that just had their bodies enhanced. But one thing Oxner notes is that these 2 original cyber new types lack resentment. He thinks if humanity can be more like them and erase malice from the hearts of people, humanity can attain happiness. Too many are burdened by their pasts. We have seen this lack of resentment in Uma with his jovial behavior calling Remy a big sis and whatnot. But Ingrid totally resents Led for picking on her in the previous arc. Daikum and Zeon are products of resentment from being cast out into space and treated like second-class citizens. Oxner believes that if humanity built the colonies and the age of Universal Century with good intentions, instead of it being merely an easy way to cast humans off of Earth, then things would be very different. He believes that colonies are nothing but mere prisons. It is time to start anew on Earth. If you are following along in our coverage of Hathaway's Flash, this return to Earth mentality doesn't become policy until UC 0105, and the privileged class of EFF tries to make Earth a land grab for the rich before opening the floodgates to the public. But we could see that the Return to Earth bill started with people like Oxner and Gop with conversations like this. Gop agrees. He wants humanity to simply survive, so this doesn't go against his agenda, so he is kind of on board. Yazan notices that the beam colors have changed. He wonders if it is one or multiple snipers in the area. He is able to spot a beam rifle with a remote trigger. The gas plant lands and trips on a landmine. He is barely able to dodge the attack. Both Jacobius and Yazan recognize they are fighting skilled pilots. Both actually seem to be getting off on it. The men on the ground are working with Yazan's team looking for Sangre Azul. Remia and Uma continue spying on them. She wants to contact Led. At FSS base camp, Led wants to go out even though Bob suggests he wait a little longer. Aishwarya thinks that Led is Johnny Ridden because he was able to bring everyone together at Jaburo. He tells her he is Led. This throws him off and he gives Remia 1 more hour before taking action. We cut to a top secret file from the past. Researchers are explaining to Degwanzabi that they have reverse engineered a plant that is used in colony soil. It is a sprout that has the ability to take over plant life around it and grow. EFF uses a virus as a vector for growth. Zeon found a way to make it grow 10 to 15 times faster. Because this is a sister strain and not a copy, it is something made completely by Spacenoids. They wonder what happens if dropped in existing colonies. A scientist says it will simply keep growing. They call this virus vector Ashtaroth. Daikum is also in this meeting. The TV turns off. Oxner was showing this intel to Gop. Gop knows of this. It was planned to be used as a weapon by the zombies to destroy Earth with this infinite growing tumor plant. But what if they unleashed the infinitely growing tumor plant on the colonies? This would force everyone back to Earth where they could rebuild anew. He says that things should calm down after 10 years, but great losses are to come. This is how Oxner plans to end Universal Century, or rather restart it. He accepts that he will probably go down as Universal Century's worst prime minister. Gop wants to make a wager with Oxner. Don't pull out a chessboard, don't pull out a chessboard, don't pull out a chessboard. Motherfucker! Joker. That's so cliche. You don't have to be so on the nose. We already know you are the elite and are playing with people's lives. He says if his men succeed at taking the Sangre Azul, he will give up on his plan of destroying Universal Century. If he succeeds at defending, he could do as he please. They sit down and play a game of chess while their men continue fighting at Jaburo. Kawase finds a heat signature at the third location and is certain the Sangre Azul is located here. He informs Yazan and they head to Kawase's location. Jacobius notices they are heading towards Sangre Azul. They seem to have found it. The men on the ground move to the Zanzibar's location. Uma realizes they are heading towards the old 16th launch dock. He thinks this is where Sangre Azul is located. He tells one of the Zagaks accompanying them to send a message back to Led. Meanwhile, a Musai-class ship carrying Horst Harness orbits Earth. They are amazed EFF is weakened to a point where they aren't even spotted. They watch and monitor the battle in Jaburo from Earth orbit. Horst seems to want his hands on the Sangre Azul as well. He believes that newborn Neo-Zeon can use Ashtaroth instead of their current plan of dropping 5th Luna onto Earth. Seaman meets with GUNDAM and Meyer May. Together they form the Three-Headed Dragon. The three meet with Millie Childer and Hookbolt, the financial vice director of Anaheim Electronics. Millie was last seen in Mobile Suit Gundam Double Zeta eating pizza with Judao and the gang. AE is working with them, but the company has labeled their group as problematic, so they will be monitoring them. However, Hookbolt does have a gift for them that Anaheim Electronics seem to have acquired. They look at a picture and stare in amazement. It happens to be the Garden of Thorns. After O'Sullivan committed suicide after being outed for having ties to Delaz, he left coordinates to the Garden of Thorns, and Anaheim Electronics took it for themselves. They occasionally used it for experiments. Siemens decides to go check it out. Yazan and Jacobius continue fighting while Uma hides close by underwater. Uma recognizes Jacobius. Led gets the message from the Zagak. He plans on having a Zagak drag his mobile suit underwater. He gets into the Gelgoog Johnny Ridden custom. Someone from FSS explains the effects on the virus vector. Remember, Oxner created FSS, and there are layers to this company. It seems Daikun was the lead on the project, but they never intended it to be a weapon. They were just trying to reverse engineer colony soil to make their own. Once it enters into an ecosystem, it will take about a year to propagate. It takes over all plants, bacteria, and animal ecosystems, and eventually dies off after decimating all life. If this were to be unleashed on Earth, it would take about 9 years. Jacobius is so fast that he causes Yazan to take a lot of G's to the face, and he almost passes out. He is way too excited about almost dying. The fight is getting too intense, so Uma dives deeper into the water and they look for an escape. Uma is certain Johnny will come soon. Jacobius spots the At Guy and tells his men to be on guard as there is a third party here. He wonders if it is Uma. That is when Ingred makes her appearance in her Heavy Gundam Unit 2. She says long time no see to her former Chimera partner. She expects Johnny to make an appearance soon. Yazan says, who the hell is this Johnny guy everyone keeps mentioning? This isn't a part of the mission. He's out of the loop. Jacobius can tell Ingrid has a Psychomu system. Even Jacobius isn't able to keep up with her. She is able to slice off the Gelgoog's legs. They make a break for the Sangre Azul while he is down. Scott goes to Hoover's office to ask for a mobile suit transport to head to Jaburo. Hoover is tired of whatever is going on and says, screw it, I am handling this myself and you're coming with me, Scott. Hoover's taking the tie off, it's on. Yazan and Ingrid make it to PMC Themis' location and begins taking out gems. He notes that Ingrid is trying not to kill anyone. Jacobius was instantly picked up and asks for a sitrep. They seem to be at a stalemate with their forces. They just need to hold off until they could launch the Sangre Azul. He realizes his age has caught up to him. As Uma and Remia travel through the underwater maze that is Jaburo, they stumble onto the foot soldiers from earlier. They seem to have better maps than they do. Uma listens into their conversation. They plan on blowing the door. The Sangre Azul should be right behind there. They will let these soldiers do the hard work, and then Uma will jump in. Yazan tells his men to protect Ingrid. They follow the river towards the Sangre Azul. When out of the water comes the Zagaks and Led in the red Gelgoog. Meanwhile, FSS, Cristobal, and Emma take off in an Argama-class ship. Hoover is wearing a pilot suit, ready for Jaburo. But Scott is scared because the boss is the most mischievous of all the FSS members. And that will do it for this episode. On top of the FSS, PMC Themis, and Team Gok finally converging on Jaburo, we learn that there is a fourth party interested in the Sangre Azul as well. Horse Harness is trying to get his hands on it for Char. and it gives us an insight into a future where Neozeon could have used a bioweapon instead of Fit Luna. Ashtaroth is a weapon even greater than the Colony Drop, but it hasn't been tested on the scale that Oxner wants to use. Their only test case for Ashtaroth is Minaret. Next time, Uma makes his move and stumbles onto Sangra Azul. Ingred and Led face off against one another, and Led sees Johnny's old memories from the past. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember, if the boss gets involved and is really excited, it's not a good sign. Things are about to go down. Peace.